Needs some sun, doesn't it? You only sit there so long.
Have you found, like in the gaps, have you found anything?
See, I'm going this whole thing, and I'm not even finding a seed.
I don't know if it didn't germ or if it didn't.
Well, it's just been so stinking cold. You got one there? I don't have anything here. Hard to believe this stuff has been in the ground for 4 weeks, and this is all we got.
Come on, hey! 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 Where you going? Hey, cow!
You can't just, wake up one day and say, okay, I've got a business degree and I like working in my yard, so I think I'm gonna be a farmer.
Hey, out of the brush.
Or, you know what, I've got 3 dogs and I'm really good with animals, I'm gonna be a rancher. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of time and a lot of experience. I'm only 26 years old, but for 20 years now, I've been working cattle.
It's a huge skill to harvest food. It's a huge skill. I mean, people come out and they think that they inherently know how to pick food and inherently know how to tend crops. It's a huge skill. But we're so isolated from it. We're just so separated from it that when people actually come out, they're like, man, I have no idea how to do this.
4, 6, 8.
If you're in the middle of a metropolitan city, there is no access to a farmer. I mean, without driving 5 hours, you can't talk to a farmer some places.
There's the disconnect between the non-farming population and the farming population, and it's difficult to bridge that disconnect. And it takes time to understand this. So, what does the public want to know? What do they need to know? How can we help you? We're not hiding anything, but what do you want to know?
Tell me that's a 45-pound pig. Yeah, they're bigger than 45 pounds. I bet that's pushing 80.
On this farm, we raise corn, soybeans, various small grains, and then we do raise a lot of hogs. We market approximately 25,000 head of hogs annually.
Boy, the pigs look real good in here.
Because of the way our farm is set up, we can use the grain we raise off of our own land and feed it to our own hogs. And then you take the manure from the hogs that we raise and you put it back on the land that you own to raise crops for next year's hogs.
What do you think? 2 weeks? 2.5 weeks. 2.5, 3 weeks. Now this is pretty tall.
My dad is involved with the farm operation every day. He purchased ground when he was very young on his own, and everybody said he was crazy, and now it's some of the most productive ground in the county.
I don't see very much disease kernels, do you, Ryan?
That's more normal.
Yeah, look at that size of that kernel. Wow, that's pretty. That's picture perfect.
I've had friends or people I've met that I've had come down to the farm, and they picture a red barn and some chickens and, a homestead house, that cliche farm.
Most Americans probably view farmers as the old American Gothic. The old man and lady holding the pitchfork standing out there that look very plain, maybe unhappy, very unfulfilled.
In my opinion, I think the general public sees the farmer as your stereotypical bib overalls, straw hanging out of your mouth type person. I've got nothing against bib overalls or straw hanging out of your mouth if that's what you want. But that's not the way all farmers are.
I think that there are people out there who tend to think of me as backwards or simple, and that's not the case at all. Or at least I don't think so. I'm college educated. I live a very normal life. Everyone I know lives a very normal life. We have electricity and running water, and my wife shops at the Gap and J. Crew and Pottery Barn, and I'm constantly wishing she wouldn't as much, and at the same time, I drink Coors Light, and She wishes I wouldn't do that as much, so we're normal.
There are definitely romantic notions about farming. And I think the more people who know farmers and actually talk to them like people, I think that that notion will start to go away.
Most people don't think about where their food comes from and that it's not manufactured in a supermarket. About 90% of the food grown in America comes from a family farm.
Most people have some sort of idea, maybe from television or something, that there's bulldozers and tractors, just clouds of smoke going and destroying ground and destroying habitat. But they don't understand that our environment, which is our ground, has to be in good condition. Otherwise, you can't be a successful farmer.
When people see farmers, I think they either think the traditional sense of a farmer or they see the factory farmer, just someone behind a desk running this huge corporation, which some of those do exist, but that's few and far in between. The majority of the farming is still done by families that have been on the land for years.
My family's been cattle ranching in Throckmorton County for over 100 years now. And even before that, we were ranching in Texas, you know, before the Civil War.
Oh, Red, where you going? Hey, sisters, come on.
The size of our operation is large, but this is 100% family owned and operated. We do have 2 employees, 2.
They're leaving you behind, going.
We don't have investors in New York City. We don't sell stocks or shares. I go out every day, I check cattle. The most important thing I do is take care of their health, and we raise them for beef. As a kid, I thought about being a veterinarian. I thought about several different things involving animals, but I really never thought I'd be a rancher. I never thought I'd live in rural Texas. But then I went to college, and within the first week of my freshman year, I realized that I really missed home. I really missed waking up every morning and feeding horses, saddling a horse, going out and checking cattle, working cattle. As a 26-year-old, I am, to my knowledge, the youngest rancher in Throckmorton County, farmer or rancher. I've got a few friends. They're all a little bit older than me, early 30s, who have returned home, but really, I'd say there are about 4 of us.
Dad, it's yard about 20. You want me to hit that corner or not? I'll get a rough count down the fence here in a minute. Yeah, Dad, more than 23 came in. Good. Go, girls.
In past generations, you know, the number of people coming back to the family farm, you know, has decreased substantially because the younger people weren't coming back, and, you know, the average age of a farmer kept increasing.
Part of the problem is farms are consolidating. I mean, ever since Depression, the average farm size has been increasing and the average number of farmers has been decreasing. So there's just less farms to actually come home to. I mean, in the past 10 years in our area, some farms have sold out and stuff, and as other farmers acquire them, they become bigger and there is less of us. I mean, I graduated from a class of 72 in Wayne High, and I think I'm the only person in that class that returned to production ag.
I don't even know what the statistics are in terms of, you know, 50 and up or whatever. I think that they're the majority of the food producers in this country, but we need to have young people go into farming. Who's gonna grow our food?
So I'm gonna have you guys do beans.
Is there a lot over there?
Yeah, that yellow variety's ready. The green will be ready early this week.
Cool.
I think that there are young people who can be very successful farming, but it takes a very special person. It is not for everybody.
Mom and Dad were always encouraging me to do something else. don't feel pressured into coming back to the family business. They would always tell me if I wanted, you could always come back, but please go do something else.
My dad actually tried to kind of push us out. He said, I don't know if you should farm. And it seems like with a parent, the harder they push away, the more you come back. But he realized the importance that you need to know other stuff. You have to go experience other things so that you can take those valuable perspectives back to the farm. So if you just live in this ball that you call a farm all your life, eventually you lose track of your perception and what really is going on in the world. And you can't do that.
It truly is a blessing to actually be able to have a family farm to come home to, because there's a lot more challenges into starting farming these days than it used to be.
Come on, Tones, get in the truck. Come on, silly, get in the truck.
The problem with first-generation farming is that land is exorbitant. It is so expensive. There's actually a farm very close by to where my parents lived that was a vegetable farm, and it's priced at like $1.2 million. And that's just for the land. And you'd need like another probably $600,000 at least in infrastructure for equipment and irrigation and all of those things. So you're looking at like close to $2 million. So it's a little out of my price range.
You know that black T-piece that goes up to the gauge?
Yeah.
That piece broke off. Is that a standard thing that you can get at Lowe's?
When you start up from scratch, you can't go out and buy everything you want right away.
Hey, quick question for you.
You have to be patient.
Hey, Dan, looking for Sawzall blades?
It's a year-to-year process of building. You gotta acquire customers, you gotta cultivate your customer base.
Robin, are there other cabbages up there? Yeah. Oh, good.
You gotta get them loving you gotta get them loving the farm.
Every week there's more and more.
Yeah, wait till we have tomatoes and all that.
It's just like a relationship. You can't go from meeting some guy to having him wanting to give you a kidney the next day, you know? It's hard to be patient sometimes. When I started, it felt very bad. No one believed in me. No one believed in me. Nobody. And then at 23 years old, I kept asking myself, why doesn't anybody believe in me? Why doesn't anybody believe in me? And then, you know, at 28, I'm like, that's why nobody believed in me, because it was nuts. It was nuts what I was doing. It was nuts to take all that on. It was nuts to think that I could start a farm on just a piece of land and have a good reception and, you know, have a good business out of that. That's why people thought it was nuts. But I did it. They just didn't know me well enough.
How can I help?
Yes, down at the end over here, we have some zucchini.
You need carrots and scallions and parsley, right? Oh, that's a good one, huh? Anything else we miss? $2.50. So it'll be 11 total.
Okay. Thanks, hon.
Thank you.
See you next week.
So nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
See you next week.
All right.
I think people underestimate how much there is to farming. They see it as putting a seed in the ground, it grows, then you harvest it, then you sell it, and you just make money. But you have to buy all your inputs, your seed, your fertilizers, everything a year in advance, and you have no idea what your income's gonna be on it.
Yeah, this is Sutton Morgan. Returning a call I received yesterday about my organic onions.
And what company are you with?
Oasis Organics. Right now, I have everything sunk into produce I haven't sold yet. And if the market drops, or if Mother Nature throws some heat, rain, wind, whatever, either affects my production or the quality or whatever it might be, I'm in a hole.
The extraordinary thing about farming is that your assets get trapped. You put everything out front, and then you just hope for a return. A lot of people would tell you farming's a lifestyle, but it's a business. I've been broke more times than you'd want to know.
When I was younger, I could pick up on some tough times that my parents had. There are definitely some financial situations in the past where it was tough to get through. I know now what it takes with banks and being able to finance a farming operation. Adelante. Josué, ¿tiene suficiente personas para arreglar mañana las cebollas?
The capital it takes to farm is just obscene, and I don't like it. There's no farmers that do like it. They don't like to have to run that volume of dollars in order to make the farm competitive.
1.306 is 30. 32 was 1.39.
Farming can be lucrative. It can also be horrible. You can lose money in a big hurry. So it goes both directions. It swings, so that's the problem.
Farmers oftentimes don't like to talk about money because it's one of those things that you can have a good year and the next year you can have a bad year. So you save for when a bad year happens.
There's so many factors that are out of your control. Oftentimes people fail to realize the risk that a farmer is taking to put the crop in every year.
Lord, we continue to pray for rain. We thank you and praise you for the rain that you've sent us, God, but we need more because this drought has been so devastating that we need more moisture to ease it, Lord.
It's all at the mercy of the weather, the markets, and we really don't have much control over either of those.
We completely depend on the weather. It's something that's completely out of our control, and we depend on it for a living. And the variation in the weather doesn't have to be much for us to have issues.
I mean, a hailstorm, windstorm, a tornado could come through and everything you worked for is gone. And that happens.
The first week of April was really nice, and we did get some wheat planted, and then it started snowing. And for the past 4 weeks, there's been snow on the ground in April. Last year at this time, I had corn emerging already, or coming out of the ground, and this year, it's still all sitting in the bag.
To be fit for planting, you want it 50 degrees or and rising, the soil temperature for corn, and we've been above it a couple times in the past couple weeks, but it's still a little cold to be starting. The planters are ready to go, but we haven't really commenced planting. Since Easter Sunday, it rained, and then ever since then, every week we've had a snowstorm. So it's delayed planting considerably. This is actually the second coldest spring we've had since 1974. The reason I started farming at such an early age is it was more by circumstance rather than by choice. My dad was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2007. Multiple myeloma is a bone marrow cancer. It's very hard to treat. It's because it's in the bone marrow, and the only cure was a bone marrow transplant, and we were unable to find a donor.
When he was diagnosed in '07, and his favorite quote was, I don't mind having cancer, I don't mind passing away from cancer, he said, but I'm not going to drag everybody else with me. He kept up with all of his daily work. He made getting out of the hospital an art form. He would do whatever the doctors asked and do it a day early. He hated being in the hospital. He loved being on the farm. His passion is shared by his children. I mean, it's not surprising.
David, is that your name on there?
David, are you sure that combine's for you?
Yeah. That isn't Beth's present?
That's the best present.
It should not be.
We were very proud of my dad. He didn't let cancer dictate how he lived. I mean, 2 days before he passed, his bones were so brittle he wasn't able to get in the machinery anymore, but he would just come in and sit in the car and watch us farm. I mean, it's what he loved. He couldn't be away from it.
He adapted well to technology, trying new things, new equipment. He always was challenging himself and those around him to do bigger, better things.
Me and Dad were a very, very good team. He did a lot of the management, and I was able to do the day-to-day stuff. We just worked really well together. And I was slowly transitioning into taking over the farm, but I wasn't anywhere near ready to assume the position, but we unfortunately lost him before we were ready to lose him, and we kind of had to step up to the plate.
If the weather straightens out, we're probably looking at doing this end of the week.
It is 50 by Wednesday and then 60 by Friday.
There's so many aspects to running a farm that I literally couldn't keep everything moving out on the farm and try and keep up with all the taxes and the financials and the payroll and everything.
Tempted to see if Larry wouldn't mind stopping over today. And
Probably should give him a call too and see where we're at cost-wise.
Mom can do anything you could ever ask. I mean, she's the bookkeeper, she's the tractor driver. There's not a job on this farm that she can't do. So Mom kind of handles the office management, and then I'm in charge of the day-to-day stuff. We're kind of a team, and I think we do pretty good at it. You have to have some help when you run a business that entails this many things. There's so much logistics to stuff that I can't handle it by myself.
Eight years ago, when I first signed a note at my bank to commit to the payments, and I was 21 years old, I felt very young to be in that position. At the same time, I had the opportunity to begin in a business that I had actually been around for 21 years, but I had actually been involved on a first-hand basis for a decade. You know, I mean, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I actually had responsibilities. It wasn't just chores. It wasn't just taking out the garbage. It's, you know, it's doing work. So I always felt like that as far as age, I was young, but as far as maturity and readiness and responsibility, you know, I'd already been in the business a decade.
All right, bring them on.
When I came back to the farm, I was in a unique situation because the farm was ready to grow. And basically for me to come back, it had to grow. And so I had the opportunity to actually obtain some ownership right off the bat.
Watch your toes, Joe. Grab that side. All right, let's put them out there. All right. Woo! Brendan, slow down a little bit, Brendan.
We like to consider ourselves more of a farm a lot of times than a business. So that's why, you know, we're titled Cooley Farms, because farm, there's just so much more of a personal, you know, thought, I guess, to it. But it's as much of a business as it is a farm. It's what we derive our living from. You know, we have to make decisions on a daily basis that are business decisions.
It's hard to run a bottom line of a business. When you start making your product, you have no idea what you're going to sell it for in the end. We can't say, this is what I'm going to sell my corn for, now pay for it. We don't set the price for our crop. The price is established by the market for it and the demand for it. And in today's market, the crop price will fluctuate 25% in a matter of 1 to 2 weeks.
Texas and a lot of the country has been in drought for 2 to 3 years now, and it's been really detrimental to the beef industry and to agriculture in general.
Rain in the Midwest affects us more than rain here where we're at. And the reason is because most of the corn that our birds eat comes from the Midwest. Last year we saw, one of the greatest droughts that the Midwest has seen, and the price of corn has skyrocketed.
Because I farm out in the middle of the desert, there's limitations on the amount of water we can use, and that obviously has implications on farming and crop schedules. A lot of people are not growing wheat and summer crops because they need that water for their vegetable crops the next year. It affects everyone in the area. As a farmer, it's tough because do I have enough water to grow what I want to grow? And it changes how a farmer operates and what his bottom line is, basically. Yo quiero poner agua en bar 3, lado east. Yeah. Okay. Necesitamos agua hoy y posible en una semana, poco antes el harvest, el quitar. Si necesita, puede poner en un bloque primero todo el día y mañana el otro bloque. Gracias.
Water is an issue. It's going to continue to be more of an issue. The fear of, will we run out of water? Will we pump more out of the ground with irrigation, with certain things that we're doing, than actually goes back in to replenish, is a real fear for some people.
In Nebraska, we're kind of more of an arid climate. We don't catch the rains that the eastern corn belt does, so we depend a lot on irrigation to grow crops. In a normal year, we'll generally put 10 inches of water on our crop, where last year with the extreme drought, we put up to 20 inches.
We rely so much on rain for everything we do. We may not be growing a vegetable or a farm crop, but we're growing grass to feed the cattle. And without rain, that's impossible to do. You can't predict the weather, but everyone can agree that weather's cyclical. There was a drought in the 30s, a drought in the 50s, a drought in the 80s. Here we are, and there's a drought. This one's going to pass, but there will be another one. And if anyone could predict it, they'd be very, very rich, but they can't. It's not going to happen. So we just go with the flow right now.
Right now, the hog market is not that great just because input costs are so high. And hogs don't quit eating. You still have to spend money to feed them. And so, what do? I can vividly remember where there's been absolutely no market for hogs. My dad and mom talking about how tough of times it was going to be, and obviously there's the concern that you lose everything. And I can remember thinking, they're going to take my little toy tractors? What am I going to play with?
Stay in the corner, stay in the corner, stay in the corner, stay in the corner.
We can sell when the markets are higher or the markets are low from day to day, but at the same time, when it's time to sell cattle, we can't wait 6 months for the markets to go up.
Oh, quit balling up.
We've got to sell them within a 1 to 2 week period. And if markets are down, markets are down.
Oh, oh. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
Hey, the concern I had is that we wouldn't be able to finish one of these orders on the reds, but let me double check that the inventory is correct with Gus, because I'm showing a deficit on those reds by 27 or something small. I started 3 years ago when I graduated college and came down to farm with my dad, and I was working for him initially, just learning, just learning how to farm, and he had a lot of conventional farming, and then he had some organic onions and potatoes. I decided I wanted to focus just on the organics, and so I worked for him, learning how to do it. But every crop's different, and you know, has its own characteristics. So I had to obviously learn that for a couple years before I decided to start my own business and become financially responsible for the crops.
You better water them back right now. You got to get them wetter. You got to get wet in here.
Okay. My dad helps me a lot. He knows this area. He knows farming. I'm constantly asking him questions. He's giving me input whether I like it or not, because there's a lot at stake. And if I make a simple mistake, whether it's not irrigating or even just being behind schedule on planting or whatever it is, he's constantly giving me information about how to grow a good crop.
Besides doing like a count per foot and doing the calculations, how else might you figure out a yield estimate?
Just let it happen.
I'm just barely realizing that I can't just rely on myself or try to do my own thing. If you don't take into account the history and, you know, other people's opinions on things, you're not going to make it.
When did they water this?
Yesterday. No, 2 days ago.
Did you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
We did a straight, like, 12-hour run and pulled it off.
You're sure? Well, double check it.
Okay.
Because that means you're going to water 2 days before you harvest. You could harvest with this moisture today.
I mean, how quick it's dried out?
Right, right. And so to make these little green melons, you have to have a lot of moisture in the profile.
Okay.
I'd water today or tomorrow and again on Saturday. But get it, leave it on here, because you got to get, if you're going to make a yield, you have to get these little melons.
Okay.
Otherwise, the vines will collapse. This is a very good crop. If this is representative, you have more melons than I have.
You realize you bent that when you hit the highline pole, right?
I did not hit a highline pole.
Oh, I think you did.
No.
You drove it once, just enough to bend it.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yep. You bent it.
Says the guy hitting the highline wires.
And then you try to blame me.
You didn't hit the highline wire hit you. Why does this not seem fair?
Just a little more.
Yo puedo encontrar usted mañana, por eso. Hoy, si puede.
You stand back here and look at it. Is the other one bent?
Nope.
Perfectly straight? Until you hit the next highline pole.
I didn't hit the highline pole, you did.
My generation of farming has access to a wealth of tools that previous generations have not had. It makes it way more interesting. We're way more efficient now.
Generations ago, if they had one chicken house, that was about all they could handle because everything had to be hand-fed, hand-watered. You know, everything was hand labor, and it's not like that anymore. We have 18 houses, approximately 25,000 birds per house. So our capacity is about 450,000 birds, and we do that 5 times a year.
As a younger generation, I feel we're more open to the possibilities that technology presents, but with that comes frustration. We were trying to get the planter getting ready to go the first this week, and it used to be you pulled the planter out of the shed, you made sure the chains were tight, and it was ready to go to the field. I was waiting for 4 hours trying to get a software update to download, and the planter wasn't usable until the software update downloaded.
A lot of the equipment I use is substantially older than I am. So I have tractors from 1945. I have tractors from 1950. I have tractors from 1978. I have tractors from 1967. All the equipment that I own, I can fix myself.
Are we actually taking stuff off the side?
I
Is that
know.
decoration?
No,
Okay,
it's
we are
actually
pulling down.
it's actually curing. That's how you cure
wow.
garlic, is you suspend it
Cool.
and then you allow the air to circulate around it and dry it. But you do get garlic in your share this
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Garlic and all this stuff. You basically take one of everything, and then the zucchini and the cucumbers and the squash you take two.
Okay.
We are a community-supported agriculture farm. Our primary source of income for the farm, they're people, individuals, families that sign up for a season's worth of produce and then they pick it up.
How are you? Look at the size of them.
I know. They're getting
Oh my
big.
gosh.
It's a community saying we want to support agriculture in our community. So we're gonna make sure that happens by, financially supporting it.
Most consumers don't know that there's different types of organic farms. You got the small CSA, community-supported agriculture type farming, and then you've got the commercial farmers, which I would consider myself a commercial farmer. I'm 750 acres organic produce, but there's companies that farm thousands of organic acres. The term organic is trademarked by the National Organic Program, an offshoot of the USDA, and it's basically a set of standards developed by the government, and it's constantly evolving. It regulates what type of fertilizers and chemicals can and cannot be used on organic crops.
Okay, so the basil's done. Potatoes and garlic are loaded. And then she wants 10 and 10 carrots and beets, and then she wants some salad mix.
On this little farm, we do 150 CSA members. We also market to high-end restaurants, and we also do farmers market sales. But I don't compare myself to others because lots of other farms are 5 generations. And how are you going to compare a first-generation farm to a 5-generation farm? You're just going to feel bad about yourself. So you have to think in terms of what's the best way to grow my business and what's the best way to, accumulate more CSA members.
I am looking for rye, oats, Austrian winter peas, and hairy vetch seed.
When it comes to seed choices, we're kind of like the American consumer. We have options.
I was talking to Kyle. 1173 is off the table. Can't be planted wet.
Okay.
So 1151 is good. We need to plant stuff with good root development in case we get any compaction in the seed trench.
Right.
We grow #2 yellow corn. It's used for livestock feeding and ethanol production.
I thought Macklin's might be wetter along the bottom and stuff there. I thought maybe this would be
Everything's
better.
wet.
I know, it is.
It does. I mean, it doesn't matter.
So you're gonna go 1151 on all of it then?
Well, I mean, we're planting clear. If we don't get rain, we're planting clear through tonight, right?
Yes.
One of the biggest hurdles we're fighting right now is public perception. It really is. See if I can find one here.
Right there. Here's one that didn't germ.
Put it back. Maybe it'll go yet.
No.
The problem with addressing public perception of GMOs is there doesn't seem to be any middle ground. It's either you're a supporter of it, you are okay with the fact of using it, or you hate the idea of them and you try and vilify it.
GMOs afford us the ability to raise larger volume of crop with better defense against pests, weeds, weather, frost, all of the above.
I understand the arguments that conventional farmers have for GMOs. As an organic farmer, I don't necessarily agree with those specific arguments, and I obviously don't use GMOs. But there's studies out there for both sides. I think it's ultimately up to us as consumers to look into where our food comes from and make that decision whether we want to eat non-GMO or GMO produce.
I've been planting genetically modified seeds ever since I can remember. I mean, I'm only 25 years old, and it was introduced in the mid-90s. I mean, we used to apply chemicals upon chemicals during the summer, and with genetically modified seeds, we don't have to apply those chemicals nearly as much anymore.
When it comes to man-made synthetic chemicals, this is sort of where it gets tricky because I'm not interested in bashing other farmers, you know? I mean, obviously, I want to grow food that's clean. But by saying something like that, I mean, I don't want to be talking negatively about conventional food growers. So that's something that I've always found difficult to talk about.
If you have a problem with the product that we raise, organics is an acceptable choice. But don't try and vilify what I do.
I know, though, being raised on a conventional farm, the precautions you have to take, you know, spraying chemicals and all, and without having any specific data, I have to think they could be dangerous. But even for organic materials, because they have a level of toxicity, I have to abide by regulations as far as wearing masks and coveralls and things like that.
Where you most frequently see people wearing masks are what we refer to as pesticides or insecticides. To a consumer, it never gets that far. After it's applied on your field, the soil and the natural factors in the field break it down.
I think in general, the less chemical we can introduce in our bodies, the better. I mean, that's as simply as I can put it.
As long as they're used in the proper way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They sound horrible. I agree. That does sound bad, using chemicals on all your acres. That sounds bad. But you use chemicals on your hands every time you wash them too.
Margaret, did you plant golden beets this year?
I did.
Because what are these beets?
Which ones?
These ones.
Those are the Kyoja beets.
Yeah.
The reason I went into natural farming was because I didn't understand any reason to go into anything else. I mean, if I was going to go into something and start learning something, I wanted to start learning more natural processes.
You missed your theme song.
What were you singing?
Margaret does not come from farming people. We are not farming people. And she had the temerity to go and start her own farm with nothing. It was this colossal undertaking, and she was all by herself.
I want like half.
Put it on your plate and cut it in half.
Well, then no one else is gonna want it. Just.
Yes, they will. They don't care. Margaret has a passion about farming. The farm always, always comes first. And if you're not a farming family or you haven't been a farmer, you don't understand that.
Where's the carrots?
I'll find Mommy.
The carrots are in the coleslaw. And the kohlrabi is in the coleslaw.
Thank you, Mommy.
She has a responsibility to the families, the restaurant, the markets, but more importantly, she's got Mother Nature to contend with. And Mother Nature never takes a day off.
I just wrote down some quick notes. Some of these things I think for next year, asparagus. There might be another organic item you could expand on. Because we would be, like I told you earlier, we would be the only domestically grown asparagus basically at that time.
I'd like to be able to grow my business and be well versed in all sorts of organic crops. And I know it can be done, and I've got a wealth of knowledge to tap into with my dad and other growers around the area. It's just whether from field to finish, it makes sense, and if the production's there, if the price is right. The question is, at what scale would we have to do it, and are there the economies of scale with whatever land base we use?
And that's back again to what we'll have to do some legwork to find out, like, hey, how much organic asparagus do you buy?
One of the biggest aspects of farming and produce in general that's changing is the marketing. What comes to mind is blueberries, and this is not organic or conventional specific, but you know, they weren't a hot item in the market till 5 years ago or something. And then you see studies come out that they're healthy, and that's boomed that industry.
In the chicken industry, they started advertising a hormone-free bird. Well, nobody grew a hormone bird. It's just people started thinking that the birds were being full of hormones to help them grow faster because chickens grow so fast. And somebody was smart enough to say, well, we don't put hormones in our birds, but people think that everybody does, so why don't we start advertising and marketing a hormone-free bird, because that's what we have is a hormone-free bird, when in fact everybody on the market had a hormone-free bird. The public, the general public, just started thinking that that these integrators pumped hormones into their chickens. And we don't.
If you go to a grocery store and you buy something that says USDA certified organic, what does that mean? Because right next to it is all natural. Do they or do they not mean the same thing? I think a better job can be done in educating the consumer of what exactly they are eating. That doesn't necessarily lie with me, that lies with the federal government who does the labeling. All natural for us means they've received 0 antibiotics. So if an animal in the all-natural program is sick and then receives antibiotics, we're able to move that animal from one herd to another that is not all-natural. Using antibiotics is just like if you or I had a cold. If I have a cold doesn't mean my wife and kids have a cold, so we're not going to mass treat our whole house just because, you know, I'm sniffling. You know, I'm going to take the cough syrup, not everybody.
We administer drugs, if you will, sounds horrible, medicinally. We don't pump antibiotics in hogs just for the fun of it so they grow better, because there's no gain to it.
I did stop at the vet clinic. Yeah. If there is an ileitis problem up there, you got to get on top of it as quick as possible because it'll move from one building to the next.
Okay, so I better go up there and check that.
Yeah, and he's quite concerned about that.
Anytime we administer any kind of drug or medication here, it's vet prescribed. We work hand in hand with veterinarians to make sure that it is administered properly. We do not want to create an unsafe product. Because at the end of the day, if we create an unsafe product, there's no market for it.
It's important, though, for the consumer to know that the FDA and USDA heavily regulate any medicines within meat.
All right, y'all excited today? All right.
Who likes to eat eggs for breakfast?
Me.
Right? Me. Breakfast. Who else loves chicken nuggets? I had to raise both my hands on the chicken nuggets.
The way that you get your story out, the way that you help people understand is to show them.
See, this is what they look like when they're fully feathered. The way the house works, at the back of the house, those are fans. They come on and they pull air into the house. And all that does is it pulls it in to either cool the house or just to help ventilate the house, to keep the air fresh inside.
Raise your hand if this is your first time looking inside of the chicken house.
All right. Any questions?
You have any questions?
All right, tell the chickens bye.
Bye, chicken!
I just got a text. Drew and Tara Moses are having twins.
Really?
Yeah.
Golly. When'd she do?
December. Oh, my.
It's the year of the twins, I guess.
Yeah.
My wife, Molly, is expecting twins.
That is pretty good. I think this is for me. Thanks, Mom.
It was a huge surprise, a good surprise, but a huge surprise. We're going to have a boy and a girl, which I think is very ideal.
Hey, I'm just getting in. I'm going to shower, and then I'll pack a bag for you and head to Abilene.
Okay, do you have a list of things that we need?
No, that's what I'm gonna get. We know we're gonna have our hands full. Thankfully, we are close to family. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
Molly and I cannot wait. It's gonna be an adventure, but it's gonna be a good one.
I know the hogs very well. I've grown up with them. As long as I can ever remember being on the farm, I've been around hogs. I know how they act, I know how they think, I know how they're gonna turn, when they're gonna turn, just by the way they move their head, seeing the muscles contract on their back. I can tell you which way they're gonna go and how fast they're gonna come. And now I see my niece and nephew in there, and I can already tell it on them that they're learning exactly how pigs act. They can tell you already at age 4.5 if the hogs are sick or not, just by the way they act. It's something you learn, and it's very difficult to teach.
Make some noise. Chase them in. Chase them in.
You can look at animals and gauge it. It's kind of like, you know, my 1 or 2 year old, when you're kind of trying to figure out, you know, if my 1-year-old starts crying, it could be a whole lot of things that are wrong, so you kind of have to start learning to see what he's really crying about, what the needs might be. And animals are the same way, you know, just like with chickens in our houses. You know, we just kind of gauge the bird. We kind of look at them, and you can tell if there's things going on with the bird. But the main thing is growth. You know, if a bird is growing, then a bird's healthy.
I can tell going and gathering a pasture, I can tell you before we go in what cow is going to be the lead cow and what cow is going to try to sneak off and hide in the brush and what cow is going to leave her calf because it's been done before and they'll do it again. And no, they don't come inside at night and lay at the foot of my bed, but I know them just as well as I know our little house dog.
I've seen the videos of people not treating animals correctly. First, my heart breaks. That's not the way you treat animals. That's just not right.
I get furious when I see those videos of someone doing that because, one, the animal deserves respect. These people on the internet that are abusing these animals, and they're not farmers. They're not animal caretakers. They're mentally deranged people that just have no compassion. That's not, and people try to characterize farmers as that type of person. It's not the norm.
Every industry has their bad apples, if you will, that just do unethical things. And I don't think we should tolerate it. But because it's been publicized and it's so easy to publicize, that's immediately what everybody thinks of.
I truly believe that, you know, bad behavior is pretty rare in our industry. Personally, I've never seen it happen on our ranch. There's no reason for it to happen.
I don't like to see anything mistreated, you know, animal, people, anything. I don't like to see it. But basically, it's going to come down to the farmer. You know, the pride that they take on their own farm of making sure that things are how they're supposed to be.
Come on, cabbies.
These are animals, they're living beings. They need to be cared for in the best possible way.
The cattle make us a living, make us alive. And for them to take care of you, you have to take care of them. So I want them to have a comfortable life. Not only is it our job, but it's something we want to do and we like to do. And we're very fortunate that it's a way that we can make a living.
Hello, sorry, my phone died. That's okay. The UPC I have on my Desert Gems red 5-pound and yellow 5-pound potato bags are switched. The red one has the yellow code and the yellow one has the red code. I haven't looked at my emails going back to see where the mistake was made, but I'd like to get to the bottom of it. It's definitely tough being in this developmental stage of my business. I'm constantly talking to buyers. The busy season is the harvest season because I'm doing grow, pack, and sell. I'm talking to everyone from the farm to the shed to the sales and customers side of things. Anyways, I'm sorting through that. Being able to manage my time, it's been a struggle.
Here, Melly.
It's been definitely a learning experience the past couple years. 12:30. Okay, bye. I'm gonna take a 20-minute no phone break.
I'm gonna make you a grilled cheese and tomato sandwich and a salad with organic hams.
Yeah, did you wash your hands?
Probably not.
Oh, it's a food safety issue.
Is that your phone or mine?
Mine. My mom's my moral support. Oftentimes I'll skip a meal or something, she'll be right there to help. She'll call to see if I need anything. She'll run errands for supplies or whatever else it might be. So I guess in the day-to-day she is very important. I don't realize it. I was gonna walk out there with my salad and talk to the minions with you, but...
Well, I had to check on one of them because her knee's so bad.
How old is she now?
30.
She's
older than you.
That's really old.
Yeah, she's really old.
For horses.
You call that old?
It is old.
Well, then what am I, ancient? Dinosaur?
Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur. You getting some rest?
Mm-hmm. Had this little UPC fiasco this morning I need to still sort through.
But it's going better than last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but welcome to starting up a new business.
Shoot.
You gotta go?
No, I did have a meeting at 1, though.
With who?
No, maybe 1:30 it was. Dine and dash.
You always dine and dash.
Thanks for feeding me.
Always, honey. Glad you haven't put the old horse out to pasture yet.
Hi, it's Sutton here. The organics, especially because of the whimsical nature of the market and things are constantly changing, you know, it's not always the more lucrative way to grow things or farm things. At the same time, because I believe it's a developing market and it's emerging and there's more room for expansion and maybe create a niche, I've stuck with it and I will continue to try to grow and develop, you know, my organic operation.
Are you finding the seed though, or is it at this point gone?
Yep.
You got one there? I don't have anything here.
Like this gap, I can't find a seed. Here.
Well, I take that back. Look at this. This guy is still sprouting.
Did it just start?
To me, that looks like a viable plant yet.
As long as it's above ground and hasn't died yet.
Hey, little guy coming through right here.
One is coming through.
Right here.
This one actually pushed through.
Yeah.
Oh. That like a worm.
Juju's. What you doing, babe?
Every season we do a farm dinner.
Hey, how are you?
There she is in all her glory. Her glory with her boots.
I'm a farmer's market. Customers, existing CSA customers, people who've never met me before, we all get together. We have a gigantic meal centered around the harvest.
Oh,
I think that people want to come out and have a nice meal at the place that they're supporting.
And that bottom field down there are all carrots and beets. I'm the type of person that I want to be able to work well, which means having good production, having things go into the field well, come out of the field well, get to the customer well. I just want to feel good on a day-to-day basis. I want to make other people feel good. I want to make other people healthy. I want to make the people that work with me feel like I have grown a huge amount in 1 year by working with this person, meaning me. I want to positively impact people. That's what I want. You know, I want to do a good job. That's what I want.
Father, we just thank you for family and friends that we have right here today, Lord. Lord, we ask now that you just bless this food, Lord, to the nourishment of our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, let's eat. Y'all, come on. Come on.
As we've grown, our farm was positioned in a place that we wanted to keep growing. We wanted to create, you know, a farm that not only sustained us, but that would continue to grow in the future. And Daddy, you know, he didn't have to sell his part of the farm for retirement. The farm could continue to sustain him.
Man, that's good.
And then open up more opportunity for our kids and my sister's kids, if they so chose, just like I had the opportunity.
Throw it, let me kick it. Throw it, let me kick it. I've always been told that, you know, you're not supposed to brag on your own kids. But, you know, when a kid like Leighton comes along, how can you not be proud? How can you not brag on him when he's accomplished all the things that you've wanted him to accomplish? How much more could a man want out of his son? Hey, boy. Hey, yeah, that's my buddy there. I do know there'll come a day that I won't be here, and but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Leighton could take over and this farm would never skip a beat.
Lane's riding with him.
All right, hang on to it.
We're expanding right now because there's a lot of people that live off of this farm. And so we need to expand in order to be able to provide for ourselves. 80% of the land is owned by people age 65 and older. Well, when they purchased that land, they bought it for half or a third of the value it is now. And with our current tax structure, it makes it very, very, very difficult to pass that on to the next generation because of just the enormous sum that needs to get paid in taxes. It's just the way it is. And so without proper planning and major forethought, it's very difficult to successfully pass a farm on without a hiccup.
I'd do it the other way around, but anyway. You always say the other way around from what I say. Right there. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
We have a boatload of different stuff here again.
Oh, my.
57.75.
What number is that?
57.75. It's a
50.
DeKalb.
Oh, my goodness. That's late corn.
Yes.
You're starting to make me sweat here. Okay.
My dad has always farmed with the next generation in mind. What does this farm have to look like if my children want to take it over? I've been blessed that my dad has been thinking about that ever since he started. So he kind of said, I trust all my kids, they'll take care of me, and he basically owns very little now. And now me and my siblings own it all.
My philosophy was right from the beginning to farm for the future so it could be passed on. And many people ask me, how can you give it up? I said, I don't have a problem with that because my time's up. My time's over. I'm willing to help the kids, but now it's theirs. Now it's their requirement to pass it on to the next, and that's the point I want to bring across. It isn't about me. It's about the next generation.
Dad never really talked about the future. When he had cancer, it was always, tomorrow's going to be a better day and this will last forever. In his eyes, he was never going to lose to the cancer. So we would worry about what we were doing the next day and not what would happen.
Gonna try and retrieve your message again?
I haven't given up. Just losing it.
It happens, though.
My sister Megan accidentally deleted a voicemail of Dad's that he had left her when he was in the hospital.
That was a good message.
I know, it was the best message. It's just his voice, the voice that he had right before he died. It's just...
You can't keep everything forever.
I know.
You always try and keep on to the physical memories of someone that you loved. And when you lose those things, all you're left with is the memories of when he was here. The memories are great, but sometimes it's not enough. You need the little things to say that he was here. It's in my office at my home. I have an ear of corn that when we made Dad's funeral arrangement, I went out in the field and I picked 6 of our best ears of corn, and we put them in his funeral arrangement. And I still have that ear of corn sitting on my shelf in the office, and that ear of corn was the last. It's just a reminder of the last crop that me and him made together. And I mean, if somebody was ever destroyed that ear of corn, I mean, it'd be hard for me because that's the physical reminder of that year that I spent with him, and it's a great memory. Got to me a little bit. Time flies.
You know someone else has his number now?
His phone number? Oh, how'd they do that? They can't do that.
They go.
That was his number.
Can't we keep it forever?
Should we call him just to say hi?
I haven't deleted it out of my phone either. I still have Dad's number in there.
We're just sitting here talking about you. Say hi.
Can you call my sister and leave her a voicemail?
Oh, God. Can you call my sister and tell her you love her? Stop calling me.
Oh, dang it.
I definitely hope that my kids will take a strong interest in the beef industry. I'm going to give them every opportunity I can. At the same time, I'm going to give them the freedom to decide what life they want for themselves and what they want to do, where they want to live, who they want to be. It's all up to them.
Hey. You do always think about the next generation or even the one following that. I mean, I'm starting, my grandkids, what are they going to do? What opportunities are they going to have? Are they going to be interested in agriculture? I don't know. They may or may not. But hopefully, I can give their parents an opportunity as well. Therefore, they would have opportunities if that's the direction they want to pursue.
Keep up the good work, Dad.
So far, so good.
farming year is a success when the grain is in the bin. There's nothing more beautiful than to see something that's taken so much work and worrying actually come to fruition. We spend so much time and so much effort into making something happen. And when it finally does happen, we're pretty proud of it.
You have to be passionate about it. You have to love it. You have to enjoy what you're doing because it is typically hard work.
It's so hard on a day-to-day basis. It takes an emotional toll, it takes a physical toll, it takes, I mean, I pretty much collapse on my day off.
Hey, Pop. I'm starting my onion harvest slowly, and I'd like to see what you think about it. I always feel like I'm in over my head. It's a constant challenge. But that's what I love about it. It's really exciting that way. It's difficult sometimes to even assume I'm going to stay afloat, but realistically, if I didn't have that challenge, I don't know if I'd survive.
We do some things that other people wouldn't want to do. I mean, there's some people that have no desire to scoop manure, and we do it on a daily basis.
I love what I do on my farm. You know, not every job is my favorite job. But not only did I get to figure out what I love doing so much, but I'm living my dream.
As I was walking the ribbon of highway, I saw above me, and in the skyway, I saw below me a golden